Are you looking to improve your sales without resorting to pushy tactics? Welcome to Sales Made Easy, the podcast that helps you to achieve better sales results and gain long-lasting clients through relational selling. Let's get right into it. What is the good word? You are in for a treat because we have a visit today with the doctor. Dr. Deepak Bhootra is joining us, and he is coming all the way in from I don't know where actually, but we're going to find out a little bit more about that.
Houston.
Okay. Houston today, but there's quite a background. When you ask someone where they're from or where they are, it's can be a long story at times. So Dr. Deepak Bhootra today is an executive coach, a sales leadership strategist, and author of an upcoming book, Boundless Within, a transformative framework for thriving in high pressure careers without burnout. And I love that topic because, hey, sales and business ownership can be high pressure at times. So, Dr. Deepak, what's the good word? Welcome to the podcast, Sales Made Easy.
Thank you, Harry. Thanks for having me. And yep, you're right. I confuse people with my eclectic background. So, Harry, man, I'm a citizen of the world. So, yes, today Houston's home. Tomorrow, God knows what. We'll see how that goes, right?
Yes, I think you mentioned India, South Africa, and Singapore. Was that the other one?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And by the way, I've lived in Libya for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
So just FYI, so if you ever want to talk about Benghazi and other stuff, hey, be my guest. I'll give you some background to that as well.
We'll have some deep conversations, I'm sure. But today we're talking around the topic of sales. And the reason I'm having Dr. Deepak on the podcast is because I've seen some of his comments and posts on LinkedIn, and I said, this is a like-minded individual, and he seems to be fairly bright, thus the doctor in front of his name. I wanted to have him on the podcast. So what are we talking about today is you mentioned something about sales leadership, and understanding burnout and so forth, but what comes to mind for you right off the bat?
Honestly, what I want to really talk about is a topic that I keep talking to a lot of sales leaders about. I think, Harry, it's something that it's in your face, but you don't do it right. It's like 80% of the people I know are married, but they're unhappily married. But no one talks about the unhappy bit. So let's talk about sales leadership for a second here, right?
Sure.
When Harry, I was thinking about what I'd like to have this podcast about. I had just gotten off a conversation with a sales leader. And that conversation was a painful one. I really want to talk about the reality that today you need to understand that coaching or sales leadership is more about coaching than necessarily technique, right? How many calls have you made in a day? How many people did you chase? What's up? Where you're in a number, you're at 93%. I'm going to put you in a PIP, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
If I could give this a title, it simply would state coaching the rep or coaching the person. Why modern sales leaders need to think differently about differentiating the sales coaching skills. This is, we talk about the stick and carrot. The reality is that you don't need both. You can actually take one and actually do an effective job on both constructs. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about, and it sounds like a catchy phrase. It's not actually, to be honest with you. If I really want to make this into a catchy phrase, then I would say it's about coaching their skills or coaching their soul. But I'm not going to make it that eclectic. But I'm definitely, you can already see there's a bias here, right? The bias is when we talk about sales leadership or sales coaching, we talk about behavior, attitude, technique. And 80% of the time, the sales leader is applying technique. I joined on the call and I didn't like the way you kind of opened. Can we talk about your opening? I didn't like the way you closed. Let's talk about your discovery process. You went into the pain conversation, but you kind of stopped at level 3. This is what I would have done if I were you. The conversation needs to be slightly different. And I say this because something happened. It's called COVID, Harry. That actually changed my perspective, and it changed perspective of our relationship with the companies. And that social isolation actually made a lot of people rethink what exactly they want from this, what I call employee-employer construct, or the sales leadership and me, the sales rep. And I think this is a topic which is deserving of affection and love for the simple reason that a salesperson is, yes, supposed to be the guy making the big bucks, right? I get that, Harry. But just because someone makes big bucks, you don't open them up to abuse also, right? That defeats the whole purpose. I mean, your podcast is called Dignity, right? We talk about dignity. Dignity in sales is actually more valuable today than it ever was before. Right. And in the 1990s, Harry, you and I used to stand next to people smoking in our faces And we were the bad guys for complaining. Today, no one smokes anymore, right? They do it in private, secluded places, and it's like a no. Culture takes time to change. And hence why I'm on this call, this podcast with you to kind of send a different message out. So sorry for a long-winded answer, but that's
So,
me, Harry.
yeah, I so love what I'm hearing. Over the years, the things I've heard business owners say about salespeople that they're replaceable. It's like, get rid of one, I'll find another. It doesn't matter. Here's $1 million performer not using the CRM. I'm going to get rid of that person. Spend the next several years trying to find people, multiple people, to replace the revenue that one person brought in because they weren't using the CRM enough. Instead of coaching, it was hollering and frustration. And the poor person who was making a nice living, was great for the company, people loved them, was out the door looking for someone to get a little love. So I love what you said about, are you coaching the person, right? Are you coaching the rep or the person? There is a human behind the numbers. And if you don't look at that and realize the value there, then you're going to be having some turnover, I would say, in your sales organization. Am I right on that, Deepak?
No, I disagree with you on one point.
Okay.
It's not some turnover or churn. It's going to be quite a lot of churn. Today's salesperson is actually a different animal. And this salesperson has now got something that is giving him so much power that you and I can whisper about it, but it's out there loud. It's AI. I just had a session with 8 top sellers. These are guys in the top 10% of organizations. They think they walk on water, but they were all actually telling me how humble they are with the power that AI has brought to them. And Harry, I can tell you one thing. A sales leader today who is still coaching based on listening into calls and transcripts is just missing the point. Use AI for the basic stuff now. Take your coaching to the next level. You really don't need to be sitting analyzing calls, because by the time you finish analyzing 25 hours of calls or joining calls, your AI will give you in 2.5 minutes that entire guidance or input that you're looking for. It'll even give you what I call corporate BS bingo. It'll actually tell you how many times the guy used this word, how many times he used how many times he hesitated. It's shocking, right? So the question I'm asking is that, is sales leadership understanding this too? Every sales leader tells me that, you can't teach me AI, Deepak. We're doing so much on it. I've got an AI for deal scoring. I have an AI that helps my reps do email. And I said, that's the AI that you're aware of. What about the AI that the guys have got in the back pocket? Because every sales rep has a GPT account. And every sales rep, whether you like it or not, is now become highly dependent on trying to structure optimize their mail, their message on LinkedIn and stuff like that. So here, all I'm saying now is that you used to coach because you were teaching people something. Today, people have got an environment where they're self-learning, and they're self-learning faster than you. And that too is also for the buyer, Harry. There used to be a time when I walked in, my buyer did not know much about my product. Today, the buyer knows far more about my product and my competition because that information is out there. So my conversation ain't going to be on features, right? It's got to be on benefits, but it's got to be, in fact, benefits in the context of what you want, Mr. Customer. So if your buyer is changing, the why is sales leadership coaching not changing, right?
Right.
And in a very simple way, right? I'm an industrial engineer. Your input and your output. Sales leadership today coaches on output. It never focuses on the input. And what is input? Input is the salesperson's beliefs, his mindset, his emotional state, Harry. Now, to be honest with you, if you came to me 15 years ago and said to me that, hey, Deepak, one day you're going to be talking about beliefs, mindsets, and emotional state, I would have laughed at you because I would have said, ha, ha, ha. And Harry, you know what? There's a reason why gray hair is respected in some parts of the world, right? Because that's wisdom, I call it. It's not just intelligence. When you get older and as you realize, that's when you realize that, you know what worked and working, there's something different is happening. And two, the hustle and break culture is not needed actually to deliver performance. You can actually do a great job and be more polite, more in tune, and actually stop and ask a person, how are you? What's up? I know we had a deal loss. What are you doing? Let's sit down, have a cup of coffee, and tell me more. What are you feeling? Let's talk about that a bit.
So good. It doesn't take this much longer. I mean, I've heard people say, well, I like your approach, but I don't have time for that. I've got to get through the numbers. And we're talking, it's attitude. It is mindset versus I just have to get through Deepak here to see if he's a yes or a no or a maybe, right? This is this is the reality that a lot of people who are selling are doing. And it does not take more than a couple of minutes, literally, to ask a person how their day is going and look them in the eyes as you're asking the question or pausing if you're
Absolutely.
on the phone, right? It's the human connection that is missing, I think, so frequently in sales. That's easy to fix.
Harry, my
Yes,
juices are
talk to me.
flowing here. Think about it, Harry. You just said something so profound. Salespeople will always argue, I don't have time for training, Deepak, because
Right.
I have to sell. What do you want me to
Yep.
do? Sit at my desk and learn another CRM update? You want to do what? 6 hours of Sandler training? No. I made my quota. You know what I'm doing. Great. Here is the difference. There's one word that salespeople tell me and sales leaders tell me all the time. Deepak, sales is psychological warfare.
Mhm.
And I asked them a simple question. So everyone's fascinated by the word warfare, but why did you add psychological to it?
Yeah.
He says, because salespeople are battling competition, not outside, but inside. I'm like, tell me more. Quota anxiety, self doubt, rejection, ghosting. Hold on, Harry, just stop a minute there. What has happened there? So you are telling me very proudly that you acknowledge the fact that salespeople's biggest enemy is themselves. You acknowledge that salespeople's competition is not just only knock knock on the other doors, right? Selling, but it's also the competition. No, but it's also something else. Ah, wait a minute. This is what I talk and I call the invisible tax, Harry. This
Mm.
is the invisible tax that no one wants to talk about. It's look, at least let's give credit to Mr. Trump. He talks about a tariff and he says it to your face.
Yeah.
Now you know it's coming. But when we
Yeah.
talk about sales, we are so busy celebrating the quota achievement that we actually don't ask, what did he lose in the process?
Mm.
What about his well-being?
Mm.
Pipeline maths is easy, right? Pipeline maths is so easy to do. But Harry, just think about it. When we have to do human maths, it's like you see someone across the room and you saw that, you know what, this is the person I want to marry. Oh, wait a minute, how the did you make that judgment so quick? But
Mhm.
human beings tend to be judgmental they can get to. But look at what we do when we do sales. We are making one judgment call. Made his
Right.
quota, awesome. Didn't make his quota, oh.
Yeah. Exactly. And, what goes into the number? So I'm just speaking generally, but there's not a lot of love for salespeople generally from inside of businesses, from what my experience has been. They are frequently looked down upon as people that make too much money. Their job is easy. They're not really working. They show up when they want to show up and so forth. This may be years to get to this point where they show up when they want to show up. But I assure you, if they've been successful for years, there is a lot going on behind the scenes. They have developed a craft, a skill that many of us don't want to work at because it's about people and relationships and being able to be trusted in a matter of a few seconds. When people look at you, a lot of business owners don't want to deal with that. And so they say, well, I'm going to hire out and have my salespeople do all of this for me. But we've got to treat them like they're, in my opinion, like they're gold because
So,
they have skills that not everyone can get or has worked at. I'm
so
sorry, Deepak.
Harry, you know what? You actually opened a separate can of worms, but let's
Okay.
connect the dots.
I love
Connect,
worms.
let's connect the
Okay.
dots for you.
Sure.
Harry, we were talking coaching and you just went into a very interesting scenario that, there's this perception from the buyer. Let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Cheesy car salesman, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, I buy cars every second or third year. I'm buying a car or trading it in, right? So I don't know what you mean by cheesy car salesperson. I don't understand that concept because I always look at sales as an opportunity, it's not a transaction, right? To me, it's actually more of a barter scenario. Yes, we happen to exchange money in it, but there was a certain meeting of minds. I saw a car, it stroked something in an emotional desire, right? I like the sleek BMW X4. I said, hey, this is awesome. Let's get it, right?
Yeah.
So let's assume I see a car that I don't like. Do you really think that a cheesy salesperson will be able to talk me into buying that car?
I don't think so.
So what are we talking about here? Cheesy. This at the end of the day, caveat emptor, buyer beware, right? So let's be honest.
Mhm.
Now, I really believe, and I say this very, 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 and I look you in the eye when I say this: sales is a noble profession. If anyone is not looking at sales as a noble profession, they're missing the point of this
Yeah.
profession. I'm here to build trust. And here's the catch. You earn trust. No one
Yeah.
gives you trust. Now, here we are. We investing every month. People tell me that shit, you got to put money aside for your 401k, Deepak. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So we retire. Then the market goes up, the market goes down. We track all that very well, right? But we are resolute because we know that in the long run, I'll make some money, right? So we're willing to invest
Yeah.
money and earn it over time. But when it comes to relationships, the best salespeople, as you put it, actually figure that out. Now I'm going to connect this back to coaching. I have a sales leader who is now looking at this scenario and he realizes that to become a top-notch rep, you need to be a trusted advisor. Isn't that a great opportunity again to coach in the right direction? Because if you are coaching someone in terms of making his numbers and in terms of pushing to close, are you actually helping him become a trusted advisor? The answer is no. So you're basically, it's a catch 22.
Yeah.
So on one hand, we brought in the touchy-feely stuff. Let's stop for a second here. A great coach actually educates his salesperson how to become a trusted advisor. That's
Yeah.
coaching as well, right? So now, so to me, the shift is as follows, boss. When we talk about this relationship that you had, it's a function of confidence, clarity, and resilience. Resilience, because I'll keep coming back to you, Mr. Customer, even when you say no. Clarity is because I understand what you want and I'm applying 2:1 ratio. I will listen to what you say and then I will apply my mind and use that to give you a suggestion or an idea or a way to solve your pain or your problem. The one element where salespeople really need to focus on and where I think sales coaching can help is on confidence. Harry, the top performers that you spoke about, these are people that walk in with equal stature. They walk in with the mindset that, you know what? I actually am not a cheesy car salesperson.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional at this point because I think it's mindset. And this is where a great coach can help you. You do a noble job. I want you to, when you're trying to get into someone's diary, make sure that they have to get into your diary also. Now, initially, when I was told this, it didn't make a sense to me, Harry, because you know what? I was subservient and I was doing what I call a lot of free consulting, give away so much stuff to impress because I needed to be the smartest person in the room. And you actually realize sales is not being the smartest person in the room. It's being the smartest fit to the problem in the room. Find the problem and be smart enough to fit your solution to it. That's it. And in that process, you gain this coveted title of trusted advisor. That's where I really think. Now, please tell me how you're going to coach on your pipeline and how to have a great call or how to update your CRM to expect you to become a trusted advisor. Those metrics that you need to coach on are what I call unobservable metrics. These are psychological drivers. Your sales guy is scared of rejection. You're scared that your sales guy has been raised to never talk about money. And here's another thing that I've actually realized. When I talk to some of the best sales guys who are failing, they actually tell me they don't believe their product. They don't believe that the pricing is right. Harry, I was surprised by that. 30%
Oh.
of salespeople actually walk in with what I call head trash.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who is the best person to solve that? The sales leader, the coach.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're sitting in a meeting and you're not actually picking up that vibe and then telling the guy, I'm trying to understand something here. I notice every time we put a price down, you always tell us that no, we need to discount because X price is this, Y price is that. Why do you never fight for us? Why do you fight for other people? How can I help you? Now, that conversation needs to happen more. And that's a coaching conversation right there, Harry.
Yeah.
It's not about you give away 70% of the discount up front or blah, blah. It's something different. How can I help you to position more value? How can I help you develop that standard of discussion with a customer? That's how it's done, right?
Yeah.
Now, the problem is, Harry, we could talk this for another hour, but Harry, think about it this way. In sales, you can be a person that no one respects, but as long as you make a number, you are assured of longevity in sales. Can you imagine that dichotomy that you have over
It's
there?
so true.
It's
What you just said, you could be slimy, a cheater, bad reputation, but if your numbers are there, that person is not your problem. It's the person that's below plan is the problem.
because it is easy to attack a person for being below plan because that number is clearly there to argue about. So
Yeah.
Harry, I stand on a scale and the scale says
Too
one
high.
person at a time, please. One person at a time, please.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, but you got a number, right? And when you get a number, it's easy to critique a number. Oh, wow, 230 pounds.
Mm.
Yeah, good. But now I get on a scale and the scale actually doesn't give me a number. The scale actually says, Deepak, you cannot run for more than 200 meters without feeling faint.
Mm.
Your water levels are not high. And because you don't have enough water in you, your brain cells are not going to fire the way they should fire when you're thinking under stress or under, right? I notice your blood suddenly the tone changes. Sometimes even with these touchy-feely softer things, you can actually get better insight into a person than these pure quantitative numbers. Because quantitative numbers cannot represent the human, right? Now, what is interesting is that we talk about AI as an example, right? And someone tells me, oh, yeah, AI, artificial intelligence. And I'm like, first of all, it's trained on your intelligence. So it's as good or is it bad? It's just that it's doing
Mhm.
things at a faster pace, guys.
Mhm.
Anyway, but so coaching is not therapy. Harry, is how I would pivot on another point right now, right? One of the biggest retorts I get from sales leaders is that I'm not a therapist. I'm not trained to be one. And my response is,
Right.
nor am I.
Yeah.
I'm not a clinician. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not in psychiatry. But you know what was a revelation for me, Harry? So let me give you a clean answer. I work with, let's say, 100 salespeople. Out of 100 salespeople, 57 or 50, maybe 65 are not going to make their annual quota.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. Two-thirds of humanity who is supposed to make the most money are not going to make their money, right? Number one. Number two, of those individuals, there are at least 50% of that who miss the numbers the second year as well. Wait, that's another problem. Ding, 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 ding. We have a problem. Now, what's the first reaction? Here comes the stick. I'm going to push it up so hard that I'm going to get him to perform better. Whereas the question should be, what's exactly going on? So now, Harry, it's not about therapy. It's about actually getting into some simple things. Hey, you did so great 2 years ago. This is what I really admired in you. Something is not working. Tell me a bit more. How can I help? How can I help is the most underrated set of words ever used.
Mm.
And my ex-boss used to tell me, how can I help you right now? He added those extra two words because it brought
Mm.
urgency to the conversation. It's just simple. And coaching is not about the leader's comfort. Honestly, it's not. Coaching is supposed to be a psychologically safe environment to talk about discomfort. I know it sounds weird, Harry, but you know what? Let me put it this way, Harry. I come to this call and you actually see a booger hanging out of my nose. And apologies for a bad example. Now you have two choices. One is to ignore, or one is to just gently tell me that, hey, I just wanted to call it out to you. There's something, you could just wipe it clean. And we wipe it clean and we move on as human beings, right?
Yeah.
Where was the discomfort? The discomfort was there because you felt that, you know what, calling it out is going to make Deepak feel bad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you also know that not calling it out is going to make Deepak even more upset later on when he realizes that he sat through a podcast with a booger from his nose, right?
Exactly.
It's those
Yeah.
trade-offs, right? You've got to figure on that. So I'm going to return it back to you, sir, before
I think that may be the first time that someone brought up boogers on the podcast. So
my
thank
apologies.
you. We needed a doctor to do that because it's a safe place for us.
So,
I
apologies for
love
that.
it. All right. So there's a lot there that you just dropped off for me to digest. So the human psychology of this is where you said, what is the underrated question? What can I do to help right now? To me, that is showing that you're now on the team. We're together on the same side of the table, looking at the whatever. We're looking at the field. We're looking at, we're trying to figure out, okay, where do we go from here? And I'm all in to help.
Yes.
Right. And that to me is real leadership versus, the stick, right? It's like this, I'm not a fan of the carrot stick for those who love the carrot stick, because I don't think, I mean, there's the rewards that come in life, but we get enough sticks in sales. I mean, we get no, whatever, if it's 98% of the time we get no, or not interested, or not now, but we're not getting a lot of love in the field. So we don't really need more sticks than that. The fact that we're doing it, surviving it, bringing in some results should be, celebrated, so we feel like, yeah, we're making progress, versus what business did you write today? How about we look at what conversations did we have today? Where did we have some wins? Look at the small things, because we're writing business. I don't know about you, but high ticket items, we're not writing business every hour of every day. It is a couple times a month, maybe a few times a month. And that means there's a lot of time where things can be fairly negative. And I think, like you mentioned, that's where we need the love and some coaching and so forth. So what's your take on that, Deepak?
Harry, this is absolutely brilliant. You have again thrown so much at me. Let me respond as follows, and I'm going to contextualize in it. Harry, it's about servant leadership, but it's not being in servitude. She stoops to conquer. You, as a sales leader, are not showing you are not a leader. You, in fact, lead by doing these things that you're talking about, Harry, right? And Harry, if things have to change, this is how I would change them. I want sales leaders to stop thinking about fixing someone. I want them to start thinking about freeing someone.
Mm.
It's a subtle shift of words there, right? We just spoke about servant leadership, right? We stoop to conquer. So we show grace. I'll give you a true story. 3 weeks ago, I was coaching a guy. This is what he said to me. I've had a great run, Deepak. This is someone that's at the 300K mark OTE, Harry. I have to say that because I want to give context to you, and I would agree that that's a decent number, Deepak.
That's a nice number. Yes.
That's a nice number, right? Now, here's a
Yes.
guy on a nice number, and this is the conversation that happens with his boss. Hey, 93%. One more quarter, and dude, you're on a PIP. I kid you not. Exactly. That was my exact reaction. Now, here's what's happened.
Okay.
The guy is now telling me, hey, Deepak, I've reached out to a couple of recruiters and I need your help to start preparing for an interview process. And my first reaction was, oh my gosh, do you realize how simple words constructed has actually led a guy making good money, working in an extremely competitive domain, falter?
Yeah.
Here's what that conversation should have sounded like. Hey, there's so much that I'm learning from you. I have a question for you. Did you know that you're only 7% off? Let's sit down and figure out how do we get you to 17% over. That's it. It's a simple shift. That's it. How do we sit down? How can I help you not to give 7%, but get 17%? Let's get 110%, dude. My ex-boss used to tell me, there is no ways on my watch, Deepak, I'm going to miss my number by 1, 2, or 5%. No ways. And if anyone in my team is going to miss his number by 7%, shame on us, not shame on him. That's where the team and the collective comes together.
Yeah.
Emotions are considered noise. It's not noise. It's data, Harry. Think about it. Today, we take all this information. Coaching needs to decode that noise, not dismiss it. And that's what's happening. We listen to people like, I want to call, and people sometimes in coaching open up quite a lot, Harry. And that's when I typically remind them. So I had a guy who was complaining about his marital situation, and I responded as follows. I'm not a marriage counselor, nor do I think we should have this conversation. It's a good data point to be aware of, but it's something that is not going to change the context of what we're going to discuss, nor can I use that to change my style with you. I have a job to do. And people respect that. Boundaries. The point I'm making is a lot of sales leaders tell me, Deepak, you're asking me to shift my boundaries, and that's not how I operate. And I'm like, no, your boundaries have been set by you. You can sometimes adjust those boundaries. And by the way, boundaries have been changing, right? That's why you have Russia and Ukraine and all the stuff happening because boundaries are not being, people go back 200 years, 300 years. I don't know what to say here, right?
Yeah.
Now, another thing people tell me is that I don't have the bandwidth to do this. Or I had a great coaching conversation, but nothing changed, Deepak. And here's what I want to give a message out to everyone. Harry, one good coaching conversation is not going to shift a career.
Exactly.
A coaching culture is. And if you're going to do something for the sake of doing something, then you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of my wife tells me that if you ever celebrate Valentine's Day in my house, I will set your home on fire. And I looked at her and I'm like scared. I'm like, what does that even mean? She says, I'll tell you why. Any woman that celebrates with her husband on Valentine's Day and disregards the 364 days of absolute misery, shame on her. Shame on her. She says, you will treat me the same way every day. Full stop. That's how it is. And I was surprised by that. Now comes, and that's the learning from that is that you can't tell me that, oh, I had a coaching session on Monday and I guess what? Nothing changed by Tuesday, therefore it's overdue.
Yeah.
Coaching doesn't work. What does that mean? It's like dieting for 2 days and telling me that, you know what? I only lost 3 pounds. And I know it's all just me having a great, experience in the toilet and stuff like that. Consistency, you need to do it many times. You can't tell me that doing something once, it's like beginner's luck, right? I actually know someone who had played the lotto once in their life and they actually won $1 million.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That wasn't me.
But now that wasn't me and it won't be me also, mathematically speaking, right? Now, coaching is more about identity. It's not about activity. Oh, I had 6 coaching sessions with my guy. And guess what? I can have a 5-minute conversation with you, which can change your life, Harry. And I can have 5 conversations which deliver nothing.
Yeah.
Because you're only going through the motions, right? And I always tell people one thing. Coach people on CRM, weird. Coach people on self-identity and dignity, awesome. you will be surprised. When people improve their self-image, the CRM hygiene will go up by default.
Yeah.
Because he takes pride in what he's doing. There's this thing that I've also picked up. It's called quiet quitting, Harry. A lot of sales leaders are missing this, but I actually educate my sales leaders and I tell them, look very carefully. The guy that used to be on camera on all the calls is suddenly not on camera on the calls anymore. Why?
Right.
The guys whose CRM updates used to be is suddenly giving you CRM updates, which you know is cut and paste from ChatGPT with no clarity to it. CRM says, what is the competitive situation? And you now get this 300 liner, which you know is ChatGPT. But the old guy would have given you only 3 lines, but they would be meaningful 3 lines. What's going on? People behavior changes, and your job is to actually be attuned to pick those up. And that's what I'm trying to explain to you in this.
Yeah.
Right?
And, that's where a good leader takes someone out of the office and has lunch with a person, and they get out in a safe mentally place, right? Where it's not the power play. It's a place where you're both at the same table. You're not sales leader and sales rep. You're two people having lunch and you're having a conversation, in my opinion, where you can now open up and say, what's going on in your world, right? And then a lot of times people will see the love and let you know what's really going on.
Let's, Harry, challenge you on that for 1 second. Let me
course.
challenge you on that for 1 second.
Yep.
Harry, you talk about carving out time for a lunch. I get it. But let me tell you something that blew my mind, Harry. Blew my mind.
Okay.
I had one of my best sales leaders. He used to walk up and say with a cup of coffee in his hand, hey, got 2 minutes? Just want to have a quick chat with you.
Yeah.
Or he sits down right at my desk. And this is what he starts doing. Hey, we were on the call today. And I noticed that usually you would, the guy said something which was weird. And I was expecting you to challenge it. What held you back? Was there something holding you back? What concern was on your mind? Why did you disregard it? And that actually is a great concern, because then I tell him what was on my mind, what was going on. Then he suddenly tells me, oh, no, but I think you missed an opportunity, because you know what? These are not normal conversations. Now, what I'm trying to say is that if you have to look for an abnormal setting for a normal conversation, then you're already on the back foot. You can actually have a abnormal conversation all the time, even in the most normal of places. You will be surprised, Harry. I've been in events where everything is going on and something is happening, and there's even a 2-minute break, and I'm at the bar and there's my leader with me. And even at that moment, someone says, hey, what are you having? And they call, Mr. Barman, sir, take care of this man.
Yeah.
He works his backside off or whatever. Then he looks at me and says, how are things going with that deal? Do you need any help? Because I was hearing that your customers been actually hammering you guys quite a lot. So I'm here for you. Okay. Now, at that point, you would argue, why is it appropriate to discuss? He's not discussing the detail. He's giving me the ability to come and find him to raise an issue before it becomes an issue. So instead of waiting for the review to blow up, you actually preempt the review from blowing up because you're always there. That is leadership. That is coaching. That is coaching, right? So, here's a slogan that I'm going to give you, Harry, because I'm the king of slogans. And put it on your t-shirt, Harry, and sell it on the show. Most coaching scratches the itch. Great coaching heals the wound.
Okay.
Most coaching scratches the itch. Great coaching heals the wound. And you know what's really interesting? There's this Persian poet by the name of Rumi, Harry, Rumi. If you're ever feeling eclectic and if you ever want to, this guy writes so well.
Okay.
And he talks about that sometimes getting hurt is important, because when a wound appears, people see the blood coming out, but that wound also allows his greatness and his light to enter into you. And that is the greatest healing of all. Now, there are too many metaphors in that, right? But sometimes a coach needs to understand that his job is actually to identify a wound which is superficial. You can't see the blood. But what is hurting this individual? And you then become not your job to staunch the flow. Your job is to be that healer from outside, that light that actually enters this person. Just think about the difference in approach there, right? When Rumi wrote that, he was talking about God in his presence and how divinity and can enter you. But I'm saying that if we believe that we are manifest in his way, right, then they got to ask yourself a simple question. Then why do we behave in a different way? I'm not asking us to be godly, or I'm saying this, just behave it differently. My job is to bring purpose into the coaching experience. And I believe that any good coach out there would not disagree with me, at least on the principle. Yes, we all get frustrated. And I'd love to say that, 90% of the time, I'm thinking noble thoughts, which makes you wonder, what does he think about the remaining 10% of the time? I'm not saying that I need you to be a goody two shoes, right? Always, yes, of course, you can hold a salesperson responsible for certain things, right? At the end of the day, numbers do matter. Vision also matters, right?
Yeah.
How you go about delivering the numbers also matter. So, yeah, coach for wholeness, not for hustle. That's another. That's it. Metrics are awesome. Those are outputs. Focus on inputs as well. They're very important. And they just the truth, not just tactics. That's how I would put it, Harry.
Yeah, it's really good. Just listening to you and the way you feel for people. This to me it's sales and it's leadership, right? I think sales is leadership because we are leading people in sales if we do it right. And the way your approach is to people, there's no question as to why you're successful. Right. So this is an opportunity, folks, or when you're listening to Deepak and you hear his love for people and he ties in spirituality with people is what I do. Not that I'm looking for a pat on the back, but I look for that is because that person you're speaking with, if you're an owner or a sales leader, the person you're speaking with is a son or daughter of somebody, they're a parent of somebody, they're, a brother or sister of somebody. They have meaning. And when we look at them and we just go right to the scale, the weight on the scale, we're missing a huge opportunity. And I think it's true in sales, is true in leadership. And Deepak, the insights that you have dropped on this podcast are tremendous to this conversation. So I'm grateful to you. Where can people find more of you, sir?
Sir, I am like the wind. I'm everywhere. I'm that essence that but to bring it home, LinkedIn, that's where my stomping ground is, Harry. If I don't do 4 hours on LinkedIn, I feel incomplete as a human being. I try to get my 4 hours into LinkedIn. So you'll see me commenting, writing. I love creative work. I have a website, deepakbhootra.com. That's a simple website. It's more for my personal brand because I want to also make sure that I establish my personal brand separate too. And LinkedIn, Deepak Bhootra, I'm the only one. After me, there are Deepak Bhootra 72, Deepak Bhootra 7061, and so on. But I'm lucky for me, being born very early helped me at least to get email addresses and stuff that have my name in it, right? Unlike some of the other poor guys who have to put numbers in. So that's pretty simple, Harry. Find me on LinkedIn, Deepak Bhootra. You will find me. My email is pretty easy, deepak@jabulaniconsulting.com. That's one way to reach me out. But I think LinkedIn is good enough. You DM me on LinkedIn, I'll respond back to you. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you have great posts, great comments, and that's what drew me to you. So it was like, I've got to get this guy on the podcast, and I'm glad you said yes. And this has been remarkable. I'm not just going to remember the booger. Trust me. There's a lot more. It is not just scratch. It's coaching is not to scratch the itch, but to heal the wound. Do you want to say that one more time? Did I say that right?
Sir. You absolutely nailed it, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely nailed it. Most coaching scratches the itch. Great coaching heals the wound. And Harry, that's an awesome line printed on a t-shirt. And says, well, I went on Harry's show and I got this t-shirt. That's it.
All right, Dr. Deepak Bhootra.
My pleasure, Harry.
A real pleasure.
I really enjoyed this experience, Harry. You lived up to your reputation, sir. I've enjoyed your podcast. Highly recommend people should listen to it. There's a different twist you always bring to the table. I really enjoy that, sir. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Great talking to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Sales Made Easy. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends. Also, you're invited to join the Facebook group Sales Training Selling with Dignity. Serve first, the selling will follow.